Hello beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. Pots and Petals here, everything garden and allotment related. It is Monday morning, I've got the day off today, so I thought, means we've got a beautiful day, let's get down here and get some filming done. As you can see, the skies are blue, the sun is out, and I think this is meant to last for the entire day. Now, it's not too warm down here. I'm not able to do a fire on a Monday, so we will just have to keep warm by moving around and getting some bits and bobs done down here. Now, my priority job to get done today is clear the shed out. Now, I do get a problem with rats this time of year. I thought it was because I used to have my chickens, but since I've got rid of them, they still come back and they get a little bit cold and like to make a home in my shed. So we want to try and rat-proof the shed today and also give it a clear out because I have found a couple of rat drop-ins, which really isn't nice. So yeah, we will get in there and give that a real good sort out for over winter. And then as always, there's plenty of beds that need to be sorted. I have got a big bag of some green manure. So we're going to sow all the empty beds today just to give that a little bit more protection over the winter time. The poly house, that's also looking a bit of a state, so we need to get in there and give that a good old weed so that we can think about planting some bits in there over January, February time. December light levels isn't great, so it's not a great time to start sowing any plants. So yeah, come January, hopefully we can start using that poly house a bit more. As always, I'm sure there'll be some other little bits and bobs along the way, but first of all, I'm going to make myself a nice cup of coffee because I haven't had one this morning yet, and then we can really get stuck into the day's work. Okay guys, so you've got to prepare yourself for this, and just remember I haven't tidied this up since spring and it's just been a bit of a dumping ground, but look, yep, that is a bit of a state, and I'm not going to lie, I am a bit embarrassed by it. So we're going to get in here and give it a good old tidy up, a good old sweep up. Now I am a little bit worried because the rats have been running around, so I am just going to stick a face mask on just to be on the safe side. And yeah, come on, let's get in here and give this a real good tidy. So it looks like Mr. and Mrs. Ratty are trying to get into what used to be for the chickens, so it's horse bedding, and it probably makes absolutely brilliant nesting material for the little rats. So I'm going to go really careful when I start moving this, just to make sure there's no little babies or anything in there, and also just to go careful of the rat poo because it's full of disease. So just go a little bit careful if you are dealing with any rodents. Yep, there we go. One's now moving away. Okay, so now we're giving it a good old clear out. I can guess where the rats are coming in from because there seems to be a number of little holes down here. So all we're going to do is we're just going to use some expandable foam, like you can see that I've already used, and plug in some of these gaps. So this is round the back of my shed, and it is a little bit of a state. I mean, it's not an absolute dumping ground, but it could be a little bit tidier. So I think the rats like to live amongst here, but I have noticed there's a big old gap right up here. So I think the rats are getting through that hole. So we're going to put some expandable foam in there as well and hope that that works. As you can see, I've used expandable foam before and it does keep them out. However, a rat is quite a clever little animal, so it will find a way into your shed one way or the other. Now in the past, I have plugged the hole with some wire wool to begin with, and then I've gone in with the expandable foam. That's better for some smaller holes. That way, if the rat does try to chew through the expandable foam, it's going to find it quite difficult with some of that iron wool inside. But because these holes are a little bit bigger, I am going to use some wire mesh. So I'm just going to line it with some of the mesh to begin with, and then we can go in with the expandable foam. And that should act as a bit more of a deterrent. So we might have cleared out the shed, but we've got all of this to put back now, so I better get sorted. There we have it, guys. Everything looking a lot neater and tidier now. I can see where everything is, and hopefully we've rat-proofed the shed. I have left some seeds and some suet pellets out, so I'm sure we'll soon find out. Now come springtime, I will do this area over with some Jay's fluid and give it a proper good old clean out. But the only problem is this time of year we don't have any running water down on the allotment, so yeah, that will be done come February, March time. But that took a lot longer than what I thought it was going to be, but I have found some little bits and bobs. So I found some pH test strips, and I haven't used these before, so we're going to test some of the soil today and see what we've got down here on the plot. I have got the blueberry bush, so that's going to be quite acidic, but then we'll take a couple of samples from some other of the beds as well, just to see. I found this almost empty tub of chicken manure pellets, so we'll go and give these a sprinkle on the onion and garlic. Ratty didn't find these seeds, so this is some green manure. I did buy a brand new big bag of it, but we'll use this stuff up first, so we'll go and sow this out in some of the beds today. And I also found some of these daffodils, so these really need to be planted out as soon as possible, so we'll go and find some room for these in some of the beds. Right, so let's test some of our soil pH. We better get some soil samples sorted, as we want the soil to soak in the water for as long as possible, but minimum 30 minutes, maximum about 8 hours. So pH stands for potential hydrogen if you're into your science, and it's basically a scale to help you identify more acidic or alkaline solutions, and in this case we're testing our soil. Number 1 on the scale is the most acidic and 14 is the most alkaline, but you want your soil to be somewhere between 6 and 7, as this is what we class as neutral. The majority of your plants do prefer a neutral to slightly alkaline soil. However, there are plants such as blueberries, rhododendrons and camellias, and they prefer more acidic soil. This is why you buy ericaceous feed or soil, as it's a little bit more acidic. So what we've done is we've taken some soil samples from different beds around the plot. I've gone for the onion bed, soon to be asparagus bed, the blueberry bed inside the polyhouse, and also the big bed behind the polyhouse. I've chosen the blueberry because that should be acidic, so I want to see the difference on the colour chart. So we've mixed some of the soil with some water. Now here I've used some bottled water. I wouldn't use rainwater because this will be naturally acidic. And then all we're going to do is just let that steep for a few hours, but like I say, minimum 30 minutes. Now when it comes to testing this, you don't want to get much debris on it, so it could help if you had some coffee filters, but we're going to give it a go without. So come on, we'll let that sit for a little while. We can do a couple of other little jobs and then we'll come back to this a little bit later. Next year, this is going to be my asparagus bed, but we don't plant the crowns out until April time. Now I've got all of these daffodils, so I think I'm going to stick them in the corner of this bed. I wouldn't normally mix my daffodils in with my vegetables, but given that asparagus is mainly a crown and I'm not going to be digging anything up, I thought it should be absolutely fine. I definitely wouldn't be planting my daffodils anywhere near my onions or anything like that, just because daffodils are very poisonous, so if you were to get them mixed up, that could end up quite bad. Asparagus is a perennial plant, so it's going to stay in here for a long time, so I'm going to make sure that there's plenty of space between the asparagus crowns and where I'm planting out these daffodils. So a standard size daffodil is actually quite a large bulb, so we want to be planting this a good sort of 6 inches down below that soil level. Remember, when we're planting our bulbs, you want it to be at least 2 or 3 times the height of the bulb itself. Don't worry too much about giving each of the bulbs lots of space. You want it to look as natural as possible. Now if you've got quite a few bulbs that you need to plant at once, a good idea to get it looking naturalised is literally to throw the bulbs down onto the ground where you want them. Now if you find bulbs are quite close together, don't worry, you're going to dig holes exactly where those bulbs landed and it will look a lot more natural. If you plant them out into symmetrical lines and shapes, then it does start to look a little bit man-made. And if you're planting these in a container, don't worry, cram as many in, they'll do absolutely fine. It's always a good idea just to check your bulbs before you plant them. This one has gone a little bit soft and soggy, so that would just rot in the soil and could harbour some bacteria and disease, so we'll chuck that away. So we're just going to give these a good old sprinkling with some of the chicken manure pellets. So this is full of nitrogen, it's got a little bit of phosphorus in and a tiny weeny bit of potassium as well. So anything that is growing green is going to need lots of nitrogen, especially at this time of the year. Things that fruit, they're the ones that need your potassium, and all plants need a certain amount of phosphorus as well to do really well. So the pellets are dry, but once we get a fine mist in the mornings or a little bit of rain, they soon break up and go down into the soil. The worms will also give it a hand, and then it gets it down by the roots so the plants can take up all of those nutrients. This time of year I would be using the chicken manure pellets on my onions, my leeks, my garlic and my shallots, and anything that's quite leafy, as well as the brassicas. Now I haven't grown any brassicas this year, but if you have got any, now is a great time to top it up with a little bit of nutrients just to see it throughout the autumn and the winter. Now just that little bit has done 1, 2, 3, 4 beds near enough, so I have got another tub on order and that should be with us in the next couple of weeks. This is one of the shrub roses from my nan's garden. I moved it here probably 2-3 years ago and it's never done too well, but look, it's got 3 beautiful blooms and the smell on it is absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so let's sow some green manure. I've got a couple of things in here. So we've got the broad beans and we've also got possibly the beans, which I'm going to see if they'll grow back for next year. But everywhere else, we can sow some of this green manure. I've got 2 varieties. I've got a mixed bag of rye and vetch, and then I've also got some crimson clover as well. Now green manure is going to protect the soil as it's going to create a lovely luscious carpet. That will protect it from all of the rain and some of the frosts over the winter time. And then come springtime, before the plants start to flower, we can then start digging it back into the soil. So the idea is that the roots are going to reach down and bring some of those locked in nutrients up to the top, and you're going to be able to dig that in, and it's also going to create a lovely new structure as well. You always want to be improving both the nutrients and the structure of your soil. The nutrients are what are going to make the plants grow nice and big and produce lots of heavy crops. while the structure is great for the roots, but also for any drainage as well. It also is the home for all of that biodiversity that's going on beneath our feet in the soil. So we're just going to give this a good old rake over to begin with, so that we can create some nice nooks and crannies in the soil for the seeds to fall into. And once we've raked it all over, we can start broadcasting or sowing our seeds over the top. Now, because the soil is quite moist as it is, and we are due some rain either tonight or tomorrow, I'm not going to worry about giving this all a water. Once you've sown the seeds, you can then just give it another little rake over to cover them up and then let it be. You should notice some germination within the next couple of weeks. Hopefully we'll have a little bit more sunshine just to get these guys going. When sowing, don't forget you're sowing for yourself, for the mouse, and also the birds. So it's always a good idea to sow a little bit more than what they say. There we go, that's all the green manure sown in these beds, and that should see it over until the springtime. Okay, so it has been a few hours now and it's time to dip some of these tests into the water. You only want the test strip to be in there for 3 seconds, and then you want to give it a good old fan to remove any of the debris off the test stick. Now it says we've only got to wait 1 minute and then the magic should have happened, and some of these patches will start to turn a different colour. Now on the box you'll have a colour chart, and it's up to you to match the colours on your strip to the colours on the chart, and this will give you an indication of whether it's more acidic, more alkaline, or perfectly neutral. I say perfectly neutral, but I don't even think that's possible. Now this isn't the only way that you can test your pH. You can buy these special gadgets which are pronged, and you stick them into the soil and it has a gauge and that tells you. Over time it will need to be calibrated, which is why I much prefer to use these strips. Just make sure you read the label and store them exactly as they say, which is normally in a cool, dry place, somewhere that doesn't get too hot or too cold. So come on, let's see what colours we've got. So it's been a minute and we're going to now try and match these colours with the chart that's on the bottle. So I was having a little look and I feel like these are a little bit, that pink is a little bit too dark there. So I think it's somewhere between 7.5 and about 8. They start getting a little bit too light this end. Mind you, that could be a good match as well, 8.5. So it is quite an alkaline soil by the looks of things. But I want to give the blueberry soil a go now, just to make sure that these are working. So this is the blueberry test, and it's not as acid as what I thought it was going to be. So either these tests ain't very good, or, yeah, I need to give that bed a lot more ericaceous feed and some compost as well. So maybe that's something I can think about. I mean, I did get quite a lot of blueberries this year, but maybe I could have got more. As you can see, a lot of them are around about the same colour, apart from the blueberry, which is the bottom one, and you can see that that orange is a little bit darker red, whilst the rest are more of a yellowy colour. That darker red tone does indicate a little bit more acidic, but to be fair, they're more on the neutral, if not alkaline side on all 5 cases. I mean, that's great for all of my plants, apart from the blueberries, so I maybe just need to think about giving that more of an ericaceous feed over the next few weeks. That is all we got time for today, folks. I was expecting some of those tests to change colours quite dramatically, but hey ho, we'll have to do some more tests. One thing I would like to do is get some pure ericaceous compost and try and test that to see if that's really acidic, and that way we will know whether those test sample things are right. I feel like we spent quite a lot of time this morning sorting out the shed and also rat proofing that, but at least that's a job done for winter, and that should see that through until next year now. We've also been able to sow some green manure and plant out those daffodils as well, so that's a few extra jobs that we've got off the list. And I've still got quite a bit of wood chip pass to do, so that's another job. But that is it for this weekend, guys. I know you've had a video, I think now, Saturday, Sunday, Monday and Tuesday, but I will be back down again for another adventure down on the plot next weekend. I think we've got some pretty nice weather too. So I hope you guys have got a lovely week ahead of you, and I'll see you back down here again at the weekend. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, all of that good stuff, and I'll see you all soon. So take care, guys. See you later. Bye bye.